Oh shit. There it is. Okay. Hi guys. I thought today that I would make a podcast because I have a lot to talk about and no one to talk to. And I especially want to talk about the topic of traveling because I just have a lot to speak on it. I have a lot to speak about it. Fuck. I don't know. But let me get something situated. Let me get something situated right now. Okay, so I want to talk to you guys like my friend and kind of like give you some advice from my experience in life so far. And the first thing I would tell anyone if I was to have a conversation with them is how important it would be to travel when you're young. Because I feel like experience is really, really important in growing as a person and just understanding yourself a little bit more. And unfortunately, you're not going to grow in your bedroom or in your hometown or going to the same school, living in the same area your whole life. Like, you need to expand yourself a lot and expose yourself to a lot of different cultures, a lot of different people, countries, tastes, smells. There is just a world of opportunity and experiences and things to do and things to learn. And honestly, if I was to have kids, I would want to travel with them rather than go to school, because I feel like you just learn so much more from the world rather than being in a classroom every day learning about maths. Like, I've never used half of the freaking things I learned in school in what I'm doing at the moment. Anyway, so yeah, like, I personally feel like I went traveling at the best time, which was around 20 to 21. And the reason I decided to start traveling wasn't because I was like interested in expanding my knowledge and consciousness and all that jazz. I was actually just really not happy with my life and I didn't feel fulfilled and I felt like really stuck. I had just gotten out of a relationship, and unfortunately this happens with a lot of girls, is they get in relationships and they get stuck, and they get in marriages and they get stuck. And I noticed with me, I had my first boyfriend when I think I was 16 or 17, and he was a few years older than me, and it was just the worst experience of my life, because he was very insecure, and for him, putting other people down made him feel stronger, and he had a lot of freaking problems. I'll just sum it up. I don't really want to give that the attention because it doesn't deserve any. And yeah, I got out of that relationship, which was on and off for 3 years, which is freaking ridiculous, and I wish I ended it sooner, but I feel like everything happens in its right timing. And I got out of that relationship, and immediately after, maybe like a couple months after, one of my friends that I had been friends with for like 7 years told me that he likes me and that he wants to be with me. And it was the worst time because I was extremely vulnerable, and I guess I just craved that like validation, and he was giving me everything that I had asked for in my previous relationship. Like, he was kind, he spoke to me softly, he didn't make me feel insecure, he didn't make me feel all the bad things my previous boyfriend did. And I was like to myself, how can I deny this guy a chance when he's giving me everything I asked for from my last boyfriend? Like, I have to give it a try. And no, I fucking don't. Like, I needed to heal, and I needed to be by myself and figure out my life and who I want to be, not jump into another relationship. But I was young, and I can't blame myself for that because I basically didn't know any better. But yeah, I jumped into that relationship, and although he was very lovely to a degree, he was very immature. I just was like, this is not really what I want. And eventually it's just a typical case of a guy being immature and not realizing what he's doing, just like liking girls' pictures and just doing silly things like that. I'm not going to go into detail about it, but just typical boy behavior. And that quickly made me shift out of like I'm comfortable mode and more into like protective mode for myself, because it reminded me of what my previous relationship was like. And eventually I came to a point where I was like, no, like, what am I fucking doing? Like, I am young. Like, this is the prime time of my life. I'm not gonna waste it demanding something from someone who's just not even respecting me and not respecting my time, and etc., etc. And I came to my senses. The whole relationship, I don't want to talk bad about him, but I just always felt like there was something missing in the relationship. Like, I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel like he was my soulmate, you know? Like, it wasn't. I appreciated our time together, and I don't know, I just didn't feel whole. I didn't feel like this was how I wanted to spend the rest of my life, because obviously there were certain things that I didn't like about it, and also just I didn't feel like me, you know? Like, I felt like I was adapting myself to kind of fit his needs and wants, and I wasn't being true to myself. Like, for example, I love tattoos, but he was telling me to laser my previous tattoos off, and it's like, why should I adapt myself to someone so much? Like, this is my life, and I want someone to come into my life and encourage me to be more authentic and be more true to myself. So I should have seen the red flags earlier. But I'm glad that happened, and I feel like everything happens for a reason, and it definitely made me think to myself, like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Like, this is not what I want. And so conveniently, while I was working at this job, a girl started working, and she was from Germany, and she's like traveling to New Zealand, traveling around New Zealand. She was only working for a little bit, and she asked me if I wanted to come with her when her contract finished. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I do. Like, because we became friends quite quickly. And within a few weeks, I had bought a car, converted it, and then I started traveling. And it was such an amazing experience for me. And I grew so much because I've never done anything like that in my life. Like, meeting a girl that I'd only known for a few weeks and going and traveling in a car, which is not like the safest thing to do as a girl, but you know, like, no risk, no reward. No, that's not a good saying, but like, it was worth the risks. I just don't think it's good to go into life thinking the worst and be a pessimist. I think it's good to be an optimist and think of the best outcome of a situation rather than the worst outcome. But I don't know if that's a naive way of looking at things, but it turned out great in the end, and I'm extremely glad I did it. And it's interesting because we met a lot of people along the way, and I think we were only a few days into our travels, and we were actually at this campsite, and the campsite was full. Like, there was literally hardly any spaces left, and it was getting to like nighttime, and we were getting ready to sleep, like washing our dishes, and these two guys park opposite us, and they come up to us and ask where they can get their dishes cleaned, or like where they can get water. And then we pointed them in the direction. I didn't really think anything of it. I was like, he's cute. And then later on that night, they came up to us and asked if we wanted to just like chat and like hang out. And the lovely thing about traveling is everyone just wants to meet other people and just be happy and just like make connections. Well, that's what I experienced anyway from people when I was traveling. But yeah, so these guys came up to us, and we were just chatting it up, and honestly, it was so easy to talk to them, so effortless. We had such a great conversation, such good vibes, listening to music, clear night, moon was out, like it was just like the perfect situation. And then we went to bed that night at like 12 o'clock, and then the next day they went their separate ways and we went our separate ways. And we had exchanged contacts, so I wanted to like meet up with them again at some point, or hopefully meet up with them again. And unfortunately, me and the girl that I was traveling with kind of like had some differences, and I wasn't super happy with how I was kind of like being talked to. I don't have anything against her at all. I think she's a lovely person. She's extremely brave for doing what she did, because I think she was like 18 or 19, I don't know. But she eventually wanted to do woofing, which is basically like when you go and work for a farmer or something, and then in exchange for working, they'll give you free food and free accommodation. And I didn't want to do that because I was working remotely anyway. I had a little part-time job that I was doing. So we decided to go our separate ways, and I actually ended up traveling with these boys. I met up with them again in the South Island of New Zealand, and we just had the best freaking time. I had the best time. And the thing is with this girl, she wasn't extremely adventurous because she had already been traveling across New Zealand. She did like an all-round trip with a group of people, and so this is her second time around. So she wasn't super motivated to go to these different places, whereas I was, and I still felt a little nervous to go by myself, so I didn't make the most of it. But when I was with these guys, they were extremely adventurous and wanted to do everything they could possibly do, because they were originally from California, so they got to make the most of like being here. And they took me up like a 5-hour hike, which I would never do if I wasn't with them. And we just did a lot of cool things together. And eventually one of the guys started sleeping in my car because there was another girl that got involved and there was a love interest with them. And so then me and this guy kind of like started sleeping in the same car, but it wasn't like that. I was very like, because I had like recently gotten out of a relationship, I didn't want to rush into anything, or I'm just not that type of person. But eventually we got a little bit more comfortable with each other. We like had a very quick connection. Like, I mean, we were spending a lot of time together. It was very like effortless and nothing was forced. Everything just happened so naturally. And it sucked because obviously he was only there for a very short period of time and he lives in a completely different continent. But then towards the end of his travels, I actually sold my car and I took a flight back up home, and so did he. And he came to my house and I took him to the airport the next day, and I cried. Even though I had known him for like 2 weeks, I was so upset about saying goodbye to him. And I wasn't sure if I was ever going to see him again. We kind of talked about me going to see him, but it was like in the air. But eventually I decided to book a flight to see him. And then 3 months later, I was in California and we ended up traveling in his car, and we did a big trip of going all the way from California to Canada, because in Canada my brother and his girlfriend lived there and we went to go see them. And it was honestly the best experience I've ever had, because I was exposing myself to different cultures, different experiences, different smells, different people, and just a bunch of things I've never seen in my life. And I feel like I grew so much in such a short period of time, and this year has definitely been my growth year. I've grown just a lot, and I can confidently say that is all because of traveling and stepping out my comfort zone. Now that I feel like I have more experience with people and I've grown, it's helped me to have more confidence in myself and learn to say no, and learn to what to look out for in people and know when to take a step back. But it doesn't scare me to get to know people now, which I really appreciate. But yeah, once I got home from my trip, I was extremely motivated. I just had this burst of determination to work on my career and make everything happen, make all my dreams come true. And I owe that to traveling and experiencing new things, because it just opens your eyes up so much. And I was sad to leave him, but I was also very happy to go home and start focusing on myself, because at the end of the day, this is my journey and my life, and I can't rely on someone else, because no one's always there to hold your hand. Like, you will be alone a lot of the times, and just like, people are just very unpredictable. You just don't know what's happening in their life. Not necessarily like they're a bad person, but you don't know how their mind works and what they're going through. So I just think it's really important to completely focus on yourself, especially when you're young. And you know, relationships can be an extra and it's really lovely, but I don't think it's smart to be so infatuated with someone else. And I think it's extremely important to learn to be confident in who you are and love yourself first before you ever consider being in a relationship with someone else or start to love someone else in that way. But yeah, I'm very focused on myself right now, and it's weird because when I was in my previous relationship, I had no motivation. Like, I had completely lost myself. I wasn't doing any art. I was actually becoming a housewife. And only until I started stepping out of my comfort zone and just trusting in the universe and the plan that the universe has for me, I almost got pushed back on track, if that makes sense. Like, I was kind of off track the last few years and I got guided back to where I need to be. I don't know. I do believe everything happens for a reason. I don't believe in coincidences, because it's too much of a coincidence to meet this girl at my work and then meet this guy like who's almost the male version of me. It's too much of a coincidence. And the weird thing as well is, like, I have been so infatuated with palm trees, which is so freaking random. Ever since I was young, I'm obsessed with palm trees. And obviously, like, LA and like California is like there's a lot of palm trees there, and I almost like feel like I felt that interest in palm trees for a reason. Like maybe it was connected to my like destiny or like what I was going to do in my future. I don't know. I like to think that's the case. Maybe it was something in my past life. I don't know, but I just love them, and I can't understand why. I don't know. It sounds so random, but like it just makes sense in my head. Yeah, and honestly, I'm extremely motivated to give myself everything I've ever wanted. Like I know that I will be successful based on the fact that I believe in myself and I see it. Like I see it in my future that I will make it by myself, for myself, no matter like who's by my side, no matter who's there to help me. Like I don't want to rely on anyone. Like I want this to be my journey and be the result of my hard work and determination. And yeah, what else do I have to talk about? I don't think there's anything else I really need to say, but go out there and spend your freaking money and go travel. Like prioritize that as an experience. Like don't go and waste your money getting hair extensions and eyelash extensions. Like it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like go and spend your money on something that will impact your life forever. Like creating memories is so important. Like I can't encourage it enough, you know? Like be safe obviously, but take some risks and step out of your comfort zone. Like right now, I'm obviously working at home, but I've bought a van, so I'm going to, once it gets fixed, I'm going to go traveling in my van, probably by myself when it gets a bit warmer. And I'm going to make some more memories by myself because I'm not going to wait for someone to come and give me a helping hand along the way. Like this guy that I'm seeing is planning to come to New Zealand and go traveling with me, but I'm not going to wait for something that won't necessarily happen. You know, like I don't go into it with high expectations, you know? Like I hope that he'll come and that we'll have this experience together, but I'm not going to rely on him. And I'm gonna start traveling by myself first so I can get like more comfortable with it. And if he doesn't come, then I'll do the whole trip by myself. Like it's like, it is what it is. Like I'm not stressing about it. But yeah, well, I hope you guys enjoyed my yapping. It's nice to talk. Fuck. Break the routine. Break the cycle. Fuck's sake. Kind of nervous. So this has to be probably the worst time to start recording a video, but I'm currently driving onto a boat to drive to get to the South Island of New Zealand. What is going on? I'm just gonna do a quick debrief while I wait in this line. So I started driving from Auckland to Wellington. I'm in Wellington right now, and I've just been stopping off at campsites ever since. I'm living in my car. Well, it's a nice car, and it has been one hell of an adventure. And it's only been a week, but I've met so many people and I've had so many beautiful experiences, seeing so much beautiful scenery, and I feel like I've grown so much already. I've really stepped out of my comfort zone, and you know the famous quote is you can't grow without stepping out of your comfort zone, something like that. This is literally just driving off the ferry. Look how beautiful. Okay, this has to be the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. I ain't even kidding. Okay, it is currently the next day. I didn't record much when we got here because it was like 9 o'clock. I also have to work while I'm traveling, so that is what I'm doing at the moment. I am a social media content creator, so right now I'm just chilling, working, and then I might go for a walk. I'm currently reading this book, If You Know, You Know, and it's very naughty. And my dad jumped in to save her.